The moment that line hit, it didn't just whisper scandal, it detonated it. A cyber attack, a leak, and suddenly a past that was supposed to be buried deep in silence was dragged into the harshest spotlight imaginable. And the most unsettling part? It didn't come from gossip blogs or anonymous whispers, it came from cold archived files that were never meant to be seen. Files that pointed straight at Meghan Markle, files that refused to stay quiet any longer.
Trevor, Meghan Markle's ex-husband, drops a bombshell that could ruin Harry and Meghan's image and make viewers blush.
It started like something out of a thriller. Trevor Engelson's former law firm, a place wrapped in decades of legal secrecy, suddenly breached. Not a minor glitch, not a routine hack, a full-scale, calculated cyber invasion. Systems locked, files held hostage. And when the firm refused to bow, refused to pay, the attackers didn't hesitate. They pulled the trigger. They released everything, and not just anything, documents from the 2010s. Personal, legal, explosive, and then came the detail that changed everything. Among the chaos, investigators stumbled upon something that didn't just raise eyebrows, it froze conversations mid-sentence. Documents tied to Meghan Markle's past marriage. Not rumors, not speculation. Documents, and buried inside them a claim so shocking it didn't just shake the room, it shattered it. Meghan had allegedly given birth to a child with Trevor before their divorce was finalized. A child that no one had ever heard about. A child that had never been acknowledged. A child that didn't exist until suddenly it did. The internet didn't react. It erupted. Headlines multiplied. Social media turned into a battlefield of theories, accusations, disbelief, and the questions they came fast, relentless, unforgiving. Did the British royal family know? Was this hidden, protected, buried on purpose? Or was this something even deeper, something no one had dared to imagine? And in the middle of that storm, one figure refused to stay silent. Princess Anne. No hesitation, no delay. While the world debated, Princess Anne moved. Quietly, directly, she reached out to the very law firm at the center of the chaos, demanding access to everything, every file, every record, every detail connected to Trevor and Meghan Markle. And what followed wasn't a quick glance. It was a deep dive. Hours, pages, cross-checks, timelines aligned, patterns emerging. And then something clicked. Something that, in Princess Anne's eyes, wasn't just suspicious, it was undeniable. Evidence that, according to her conclusion, confirmed the existence of that child. And she didn't keep it to herself. She sent it straight to Prince Harry. Not a vague warning, not a gentle suggestion, a direct message. Evidence attached. Words sharp and uncompromising. She laid it out, every document, every timeline, every claim, and demanded answers. Immediate answers. No room for delay, no room for denial. And when Prince Harry opened that message, everything shifted. Because suddenly, this wasn't public noise anymore. It was personal. It was inside his home, inside his life. And it exploded exactly where you'd expect between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Inside their Montecito estate, the confrontation didn't simmer, it erupted. Prince Harry, holding the evidence, demanding clarity, demanding truth, asking the question that hung heavier than anything else: how could something this massive stay hidden? How could a past like this never surface? How could trust survive something like this? And Meghan Markle, she didn't retreat. She didn't hesitate. She fired back, not with quiet denial, but with force, with emotion, with anger. She called it a trap, a setup, a calculated move designed to destroy her. She pointed straight back at the royal family, accusing them of orchestrating everything, of fabricating a child, of weaponizing lies. And just like that, the battle lines were drawn. Inside that house, neither side stepped back. Every word sharpened the divide. Every second deepened the fracture. And outside, the world watched, dissecting every detail, every reaction, every silence. But Meghan Markle wasn't done, because almost immediately after that confrontation, she made her move. Strategic, public, controlled. She stepped in front of cameras, addressed the storm head on, and delivered her message to the world. She rejected everything, every allegation, every document, every claim. She named Princess Anne directly, accusing her of fabricating a narrative designed to destroy her reputation. It wasn't just denial, it was counterattack. She framed herself as the target, the victim, the one being pushed out. And for a moment, it shifted the conversation, because now it wasn't just about the alleged child, it was about power, control, and who was really behind the curtain pulling the strings. But here's where it gets even more intense, because instead of backing down, Princess Anne went deeper. She didn't stop at the first set of files. She didn't hesitate after the public backlash. She doubled down. She returned to the records, dug further, examined transcripts, settlement drafts, every hidden corner of that legal legal archive. And just when it felt like the storm had already reached its peak, another voice entered the chaos, quiet at first, almost hesitant but carrying a weight that immediately shifted everything. From Los Angeles, a retired private physician stepped forward, not through whispers or anonymous leaks, but openly, directly, with something far more dangerous than speculation. Evidence, not interpretations, not theories, documents, medical records, and a testimony that cut straight through every denial that had come before it. The revelation didn't creep into the public eye, it crashed into it. The physician claimed first-hand involvement, describing a confidential cesarean delivery that had taken place years earlier, surrounded by secrecy so tight it had never surfaced until now. And this wasn't just a story being told, it was backed by files, preserved records, and denial results that were presented as intact, complete, and impossible to dismiss. The impact was immediate. Conversations that had been divided suddenly tilted, not quietly but sharply, as people began to ask whether this was the missing piece that connected everything. As the testimony unfolded, the details became more unsettling, more layered, more difficult to ignore. According to the account, the pregnancy itself had been surrounded by conflict, pressure, and decisions that left scars far deeper than the public had ever imagined. The description painted a picture not of celebration, but of resistance, of tension, of a situation that had spiraled into something neither simple nor easily explained. And with every word, the narrative that had once seemed fragmented began to take on a shape, one that pointed back to Meghan Markle and Trevor in ways that could no longer be brushed aside as coincidence. But the shock didn't stop there. The physician went further, describing what followed the birth in terms that stunned those listening. Moments that should have been filled with connection were described instead as distant, detached, and cold. A series of actions that, according to the account, created a fracture that could not be repaired. And at the center of it all was a decision that would define everything that came after. The placement of the child with a foster family, far removed, far hidden, far disconnected from the life that would later unfold in the public eye. And just as the world was trying to process that, another wave hit. An anonymous account surfaced. No warning, no buildup. Just a sudden appearance, claiming to be connected directly to the child's life after everything that had happened, and with it a photograph, not fully revealed, not entirely visible, but enough to ignite a new level of scrutiny. Features examined, comparisons drawn, every detail dissected with relentless intensity as people searched for confirmation, for resemblance, for anything that could anchor the claim in something real. Alongside the image came a statement, deeply emotional, impossible to ignore, words that spoke of absence, of distance, of a life shaped without the presence that should have been there. It wasn't just an accusation anymore, it was a narrative of abandonment, of separation, of a story that had been unfolding quietly while the public remained unaware. And for the first time, the response from Meghan Markle shifted not into defense, not into confrontation, but into silence. The sudden disappearance from public platforms, the withdrawal from communication, the absence where there had once been immediate reactions, it didn't calm the situation. It intensified it, because in a story built on questions, silence doesn't close doors, it opens more of them. At that point, the situation had gone far beyond speculation. It had become a crisis, and Princess Anne acted accordingly. An emergency meeting was called at Buckingham Palace, bringing together senior members of the royal family in a moment that felt less like routine and more like a line being drawn. The outcome wasn't delayed, it wasn't softened, it was delivered directly, publicly, and without ambiguity. Princess Anne stepped forward and addressed the situation with clarity that left no room for interpretation. The royal family, Buckingham Palace, had never been informed, never been aware, never been involved in any concealment. The statement didn't just reject association, it severed it completely, and in doing so, it sent a message that echoed far beyond the walls of the palace. Because what followed was even more decisive. A formal statement from the British royal family, released with a tone that abandoned diplomacy in favor of precision, laid out the position in terms that were unmistakable. Responsibility would not be shared. Protection would not be extended. Every allegation, every piece of evidence, every claim would be faced directly and alone. Meghan Markle was required to address everything personally, without invoking the royal name, without relying on royal resources. And then came the line that changed the stakes entirely. If the allegations were confirmed, if the evidence held, then the consequences would not be symbolic. They would be absolute. Every royal title, every honor, every connection to the institution would be removed. Permanently, no exceptions, no reversals. The effect was immediate. The distance between Meghan Markle and the royal family was no longer implied, it was declared. Publicly, officially, irreversibly.